Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well. Today's a very exciting video because we will be doing a review for my most anticipated release of the year. Saints and Misfits is one of my favorite books, and S.K. Ali has been a really important author in my life because of that book. It was one of the first books that I seen with Muslim representation and such positive Muslim representation in it, and I was so incredibly excited when I heard that she was coming out with a second novel. That second novel being Love from A to Z. I was sent an ARC in exchange for an honest review by the publisher, so thank you so much to Simon & Schuster for sending this my way. The book comes out today, the day that this video is being published, and I would have ideally liked to have this video up before the book was published, but it's been a month, and I ended up finishing it a little bit late. I actually finished it earlier today because my life this month has been all over the place, y'all don't even know. I did a reading vlog for this book. It took me about 2 weeks to finish it, and I talk about all of the things that were stressing me out and that were kind of impeding on my finishing this story. But either way, we're here, you know, it's the day it comes out, and I'm excited to inundate your timeline with images of this book because I'm not going to stop talking about this for at least months. It is such a wonderful story. It's such a fresh and innovative story, not just because it's, you know, about Muslims or because it's, you know, diverse or whatever. Like, S.K. Ali gives us such a unique format and a really interesting way of putting everything together. She came through for the girls and she left with our wigs. Do you see a wig on my head? No, that's because she snatched it. So today I'm going to be telling you why exactly my wig was snatched by this fantastic story. This is the story of Adam and Zainab. Adam is originally from Canada, but he moves with his family when he's around 8 or 9 to Qatar, to Doha, Qatar, which is in the Middle East. And he converts to Islam when he's around 11. And our other main protagonist is Zainab, and Zainab has been a Muslim, born and raised a Muslim her entire life, and she is originally from America. So both of them are on their way to Doha. Adam is studying currently in London and he's taking a flight back to Doha. Zainab is going to visit her aunt who works there, and she's taking a flight connecting from London to Doha, and the two of them end up meeting on the plane ride to Doha. And it's such a wonderful story because they meet again in Doha through circumstances, and because of that they end up cultivating this really beautiful relationship with each other. Which is the first thing that I have to say about this book. This is not just a romance. This is a story about two separate characters, two completely separate characters, two completely separate character arcs, two completely separate stories that intersect, right? I like to think I drew a Venn diagram. You might be able to see it properly. I do like these beauty gurus, and is it focusing? I don't know. But basically, like, how I think of it is that you have Adam's story and Zainab's story, and they both intersect. And I appreciate that about this book because we get so much out of these two characters. We see so much of who they are and what they're dealing with. So both of them are dealing with two things, basically. Zainab is dealing with injustice and grief. Adam is dealing with illness and grief. Adam was recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which was the disease that took his mother's life. And ever since his mother's death, he's just been seeking peace. He's just been seeking solace. That's all he wants in life. He wants peace. He wants solace. He just likes to focus on the good things in life. He just likes to meditate on the good things in life, and he likes to shove the negative behind. He likes to repress things. Because of that, he's very soft and very shy, and he likes to keep to himself, and he's not a very open or emotional person. And so when he himself is diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, he kind of does the same thing. He decides not to tell his family, and he decides to keep that to himself because he just does not like to focus on the negative things in life. He only likes to focus on positive things. Zainab is the opposite. She's dealing with a lot of Islamophobia coming from America. Her teacher is an Islamophobic, I don't want to curse in this video. Her teacher is not a nice person, right? He's very Islamophobic. In addition to that, she has to deal with people not telling her things about her hijab. She has to deal with racist white ladies on planes who don't want to sit down next to her for some reason or the other. She's also dealing with grief because somebody very close to her dies, and I can't really get into the reasons why that person dies, but let's just say instead of Adam, whose mother's death makes him just want to seek peace and makes him just want to find solace, the death of the person in Zainab's life makes her angry. It makes her furious, and that's really what her character is. She's very angry, but she's not just angry, she's passionate. She wants justice. She wants to seek justice. She wants to eschew all of the problems in the world, and she wants to save everybody, and she wants to fight for everybody's rights, and she's very confident and very open and very emotional and very expressive because of that. And that's one of the things I love the most about this story. It subverts a lot of the stereotypes that we get between a boy and a girl, right? In these YA contemporary novels, the boy is always the one who's kind of outgoing, and the girl is always the one who's kind of shy and soft. And that's flipped in this book. And it's realistic, right? Because not only are these characters subverting that idea, but they're also very well rounded. They're flawed. There'll be times where you just want to throw the book at both of them, and you'll get more angry because you can't physically throw the book at them because they're being annoying. And that's so realistic, right? It's realistic because nobody's perfect, right? You know, I read all of these YA contemporary stories, and these boys are so perfect. Like, they're so perfect. I'm like, you have abs, you have a good personality, you're smart, you know everything, you know how to make people feel good. But Adam is not like that. He's amazing and he's wonderful. I love him, don't get me wrong, but he's realistic. He's realistic, and I love him for that reason even more. So that's the two very different things that they're both dealing with in their life. Adam is trying to work on finding peace, trying to focus on the positive things in his life, trying to deal with his disease, and how is he going to tell his dad? How is he going to tell his sister? He's trying to focus on his favorite hobby, which is like making things and inventing things and that kind of stuff. He's trying to deal with the grief of, you know, the memories of losing his mother and what happened to her and how that scarred him for life. He's trying to grapple with all of those things by trying to find peace. Zainab's story is about trying to get justice. She wants to get her teacher fired. She's, you know, like conspiring with her friends to find out what her teacher is doing online. It's all sorts of different things going on in her life that she's trying to correct. And it makes for two very different characters. And that's where we get into the format of this novel. This book is told in, I want to say epistolary, but not really. Like, it's basically we're reading both of their journals, right? It's actually both of their journals, and they both have the same journal, a Marvel and Oddities journal, which is inspired by a painting or an art piece that they both saw when they were younger, that they also both visit in the book because it's in the Museum of Islamic Art in Doha, I think it's called. And it's about the marvels of a life and the oddities of existence, I think it's called. I can't remember. But basically that's the format of their journals. Each chapter, they have a marvel and an oddity. And in the marvel, they talk about something good and something wonderful that they experienced that day. And then in the oddity, they talk about something a little bit more negative. And Zainab's stories are full of oddities, right? Because she's focused on the negative things in life. And not because she's a negative person, but because she's a passionate person and she wants to get rid of them. So in order for her to get rid of them, she has to focus on them. She has to deal with them up front. Whereas Adam, as I said, he's just more focused on the marvels in life. He's more focused on the good things in life. And both of these journals actually really help them to understand their world a lot better. And you see that journey that they take throughout the story. Now, this is where I have one little caveat with that format. I just find it a little, you see, the thing about reading books that are written in like journals, it's hard for me to believe that like a teenager would be writing like that, you know what I mean? Like, is this your journal? Because like this is like, you know, prose in a novel, right? Like, do teenagers actually write like that? Or is that kind of like an interpretation of what they would write in their journals? Kind of like if you're reading a book that's set in like a Spanish speaking country, and you know that the characters are speaking Spanish, but the dialogue is in English, like it's altered so that it could be more palatable to a reader in some sense. So maybe that's what's going on in here. But I just found that just a little bit strange, and it did kind of take me out of the fact that I was actually reading their journals and not just a regular little story. And you can't talk about a Muslim book without talking about what this book has to say about Islam, which was just fantastic throughout. So if you go back a couple of videos, you'd see that I made a video talking about Muslim books and Muslim representation, and how a lot of the books that are written by and about Muslims tend to be either about Islamophobia, racism, xenophobia, or fundamentalism, sexism, homophobia, you know, extremism in the Muslim community. And even though those things are important and we should be writing about those things and those stories are fantastic and we need to read them, it could become a little bit overwhelming because struggle does not define the Muslim experience, right? So I was really glad to finally read a book that is not about Islamophobia, but that addresses it. Like, it addresses it, and it's a very relevant part of the story, especially where Zainab is concerned, but it isn't like, it doesn't take over the story, right? It's still a happy-go-lucky, fluffy, cute story at the end of the day, and I loved that. I love that so much about this story. The book really demystifies a lot of the ideas that we have about Muslims and about Islam. I go into this a little bit more detail in my vlog, but it touches on the whole notion that a Muslim woman cannot achieve liberation if she holds on to her religion, when we have, you know, we've seen examples in Muslim countries and Muslim communities of Muslim women having their religiosity and their love for Islam be the reason why they want justice, to be the reason why they want to achieve justice and liberation. You can't just say that, oh, you know, you need to leave the religion, because you can't just expect people to leave their religion to embrace some kind of Western ideology of what feminism is. Feminism takes different forms in different parts of the world, and this story kind of touches on that at some point, and I really appreciate that as a feminist myself, as a student of gender studies, as a decolonial feminist, like all those different things. I really, really appreciated that. I loved also that this book brought two characters from two completely different cultural backgrounds together and, you know, connected them and bonded them through their love for their religion. So Adam is very interesting. As I said, he's a convert. He's originally from Canada, and his mom is white. His mom was white, and his dad is Chinese. And so he's kind of a very culturally complex person, for lack of a better way of saying that, being half white, half Chinese, originally from Canada. Now he's living in Doha, and he converted to Islam. And I find that to be a really interesting thing, and I also really love that we have that representation of somebody who is not stereotypical Muslim, in the sense that, you know, people have this idea that all Muslims are Arab or that Islam is a race, and it sort of reminds us that while Islam is also very cultural and can be tethered to one's ethnicity in many different ways, it's really a system of belief, it's a way of life, it's a way of looking at the world, and it belongs to anybody who wants to embrace it. And that's why I'm really glad that we have the representation of a young Muslim who converted to Islam, as opposed to, you know, born and raised like most of the books that we read about Muslims. So I really appreciated that. I also appreciated Zainab's cultural background. So Zainab is basically South Asian, but she's two very different types of South Asian. So her dad is Pakistani, but her mom is Indo-Caribbean. Her mom's mom was from Trinidad, which is where I'm from, if you didn't know, and her mom's dad is from Guyana, which is where one of my grandfathers is from. So it was really great. It's not a big representation, like it's not a huge part of the story, it's just kind of like a matter of fact thing, but it's so great to just see that on the page, to see the, you know, us being acknowledged, you know, Muslims in the Caribbean. And I mean, I think her mom's family is actually not Muslim, and her mom is a convert as well, but, you know, it's still great to see that, you know, people know that the Caribbean exists, that Indo-Caribbean people exist, that Indo-Caribbean Muslim people exist, and Muslim Caribbean people exist in you know, like, it's nice to see that. It's a really nice thing to see, and I felt kind of, I was like, Last thing that I want to touch on is the characters. So I talked a lot about Zainab and Adam, but there's so much other characters in this book that I love. So one of my first issues with Saints and Misfits was that there were so many different characters who I found really, really interesting, but we didn't really get to see enough of them. They just kind of felt like they were there for the sake of being there. But in this book, S.K. Ali really improved on giving you these characters and making them very multi-dimensional. There was one character in the book who we didn't even see throughout the whole story, right? There was this, what's her name again? Kavi, which is Zainab's best friend back home, and we only hear Kavi and see Kavi through text messages and through phone calls and that kind of stuff, but we really get a good sense of who she was. And I really love that. I also loved Zainab's aunt Nandi. Nandi's her mom's sister, and she's staying with her aunt in Doha, obviously. You all don't know how much I love a cool auntie. I love reading books with cool aunties. I wish I had a cool auntie. She was wonderful. And then on Adam's side, he has such a good support system of friends. His family is amazing. His dad is wonderful. His little sister is the most adorable part of this novel. Characters were amazing. The plot was amazing. As I said, it was really, really cleverly structured. The story was fantastic. The messaging was amazing. What else didn't I talk about? I did have some issues with the writing. When I first started, I felt like it was a little bit jarring at some point. But as I got through the rest of the story, that didn't end up being a problem anymore. So I think it was probably just a matter of me getting used to the way that she structures her sentences a little bit. And once I got past that, I was fine. I think that's pretty much everything that I have to talk about. I touched on everything. If I have to touch on anything else, it would require me spoiling the book, which I'm not going to do, at least not in this video. So I gave it 5 stars, and it is the best book that I read for the year. It's only the second book that I've given 5 stars for the year to so far, and I've already read 11 books for the year. As I said, this book is so unique, and it's not just different and unique because of the representation or because of the fact that it's set in the Middle East or whatever. It's unique because of the way that it's structured. It's unique because we have 2 characters who who have two very separate stories but who come together. It's unique because it's a story about two characters who essentially function as allegories for justice and peace, which are the two core things that Muslims in this world seek today. It's the reason why we embrace our religion, it's the reason why we love our religion, it's the reason why we fight for our religion. I love this book for that reason. It's one of the healthiest, best books that I've ever read about Muslims and about the Muslim experience ever, and I appreciate it so much. And I just love the way that S.K. Ali ties everything together and puts everything together. As I said, it's like a puzzle. It's just like a perfect puzzle, and when you're finished with it and you see how all of the lines connect, it's just, you have to appreciate the brilliance of how this book was constructed. It is a work of art. And I didn't say this in the beginning, but I just wanted to mention it really, really quickly. There's an author's note that talks about multiple sclerosis, conversion, and Islamophobia, because those are obviously three very important aspects of the stories. I did not speak in detail about the MS aspect of the story because that's not something that I can speak to. S.K. Ali did her research on it, she knows people with it, and that is mentioned in the author's notes. So if you're concerned about the representation of that, as well as Muslims who have converted, as well as Muslims of different backgrounds, as well as Islamophobia, and you want to know how accurately those things were handled, read the author's note. That's everything I have to say. This video is probably a little bit too long, but I hope that I've convinced y'all to read this book. And even if I didn't, don't worry, I'll be mentioning it a lot. I want to show y'all something. My cousin gave me these socks last night that are like chocolate chips. I love it, and it kind of matches with the book, right? Right? Okay, no, maybe not. I just wanted to show off my chocolate chip socks. I haven't worn them yet, don't worry. Probably end this video before I end up doing something stupid again. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you've read this book, if you've read an arc of it, if you plan on reading it, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. I hope you have a lovely, lovely day, and until next time, inshallah, keep reading.